Incredible. Ferrari starts exciting again and Hamilton breaks the silence in Jeddah. Are we facing a new era for the Scuderia? I'll tell you all about it. Ferrari arrived at the 2025 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix burdened by the doubts left by its performance at the first race of the year in Bahrain. Despite showing speed at times, the SF25 failed to translate its potential into consistent results, and comparisons with McLaren and Red Bull were not favorable. The pressure on Maranello was evident, especially given the team's internal context. The signing of Lewis Hamilton, the growing demands on Charles Leclerc, and the urgent need to make a statement at the start of the season. The choice of the Jeddah circuit as the second venue on the calendar is no coincidence. This track, with its very specific characteristics, long, fast, and technical, has become a true benchmark of pure performance. It demands not only great aerodynamic efficiency, but also high-speed stability, precision, and, above all, confidence. And that confidence, from both the team and the drivers, is exactly what Ferrari needed to rebuild after a start to the year that, while not a disaster, did leave the feeling of still being behind in the championship fight. Furthermore, there is a particular tension in the paddock. McLaren has started the season very strongly, surprising even Red Bull in certain aspects, and Max Verstappen remains the rival to beat. In this context, Ferrari needed not only to be competitive, but to send a clear message: they are ready to fight. And Jeddah, due to its speed and technical demands, seemed the perfect place to do so. Especially considering that the track allows the Ferrari engine's power to be fully utilized, one of the SF25's greatest assets. As if that weren't enough, the 2025 season is marked by multiple rumors surrounding the driver market, with names like Carlos Sainz, Franco Colapinto, Yuki Tsunoda, and Liam Lawson making strong waves in the corridors. All of this increases the pressure on the top teams even more, and Ferrari can't afford to fall behind. Every session, every fast lap, every detail counts in this hyper-competitive Formula One. And the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix was shaping up to be the first major serious test for the Scuderia. The first free practice for the 2025 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix was much more than just a first taste of the Jeddah asphalt. For Ferrari, it represented a key opportunity to assess whether the improvements introduced since Bahrain could really make a difference. And although the times didn't top the charts, there were clear signs that something was changing. Charles Leclerc finished the session in a solid third place, behind an unexpected Pierre Gasly and Lando Norris, who continues to show the McLaren's excellent form. But beyond the time result, what was important was the performance of the SF25. The car proved more stable, more agile in high-speed corners, and above all, more consistent in its responses. This feeling isn't always reflected in the times, but it's vital for the setup work for the rest of the weekend. In parallel, Ferrari took advantage of this first session to test a series of aerodynamic updates on track. The focus was particularly on the new rear wing design, a revised part to reduce drag and improve efficiency in high-speed zones. This component, installed only on Leclerc's car, demonstrated a dual approach by the team. While the Monégasque assumed the role of technical evaluator, Hamilton continued his adaptation process with a more conservative setup. The objective of this test was not simply to gain top speed, but also to understand how the car behaves under different load levels on a track with little margin for error. The key in Jeddah is finding the right balance between speed and stability, and that's what Ferrari was looking for with this new solution. Lewis Hamilton, meanwhile, finished 8th. A modest result, but understandable considering the Briton is still in the midst of a transition after more than a decade with Mercedes. His approach was more focused on accumulating data and understanding how the car responds in real-world conditions, without pushing it to the limit. Furthermore, the team used the session to analyze the car's behavior at different fuel levels, as well as the interaction of the new aerodynamic package with the flat floor that had already been introduced in Bahrain. Everything indicated that Friday's work was about more than just aiming for a good time. It was about laying the foundation for Saturday and Sunday. And for the first time in a long time, Ferrari seemed to have a clear roadmap. The second free practice session for the 2025 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix was undoubtedly much more revealing. With nighttime conditions that replicated those of qualifying and the race, all the teams began to show their true colors. And Ferrari, quietly, made it clear that it is getting closer to being among the weekend's big players. Charles Leclerc finished the session in 4th place, just behind Max Verstappen, who once again demonstrated that with Red Bull, you can't let your guard down. However, the most significant aspect wasn't the position in the standings, but the pace shown in the race simulations. The SF25 performed solidly lap after lap, maintaining a stable performance that could become one of the keys to aiming for a podium finish on Sunday. This improvement compared to FP1 and, above all, compared to what was seen in Bahrain, is due to several factors. First, the new aerodynamic package seems to have adapted perfectly to the characteristics of the Jeddah track. The circuit's low loading, combined with asphalt that allows for a more aggressive ride height, has given Ferrari the perfect setting to maximize the car's performance. Leclerc, with a setup already fine-tuned after FP1, found a balance that allowed him to run confidently through both fast corners and technical sections. His radio communication with the engineers was clear. The car is responsive, and that's what he needs to squeeze the SF25 out of the box in qualifying. But not everything was positive for Ferrari. Lewis Hamilton had a more complicated session. Not only did the Briton fail to find a competitive pace, but he was also summoned by the stewards after an incident at turn 18, where he allegedly blocked Alex Albon. Although it didn't have serious consequences, the incident showed that Hamilton is still adjusting to a car he hasn't yet fully mastered. Despite this, the data collected during the long runs was encouraging. Both Ferraris showed very controlled tire degradation, something that has historically been an Achilles heel for the team. This time, however, the track conditions and Pirelli's choice of softer compounds seemed to be working in their favor. The minimal wear on this track could make the SF25 a very effective weapon if the observed race pace is maintained. Added to all this is the growing confidence within the team. The engineers are clear that the key is a good qualifying. On a circuit where overtaking is not easy, starting from the front rows will be decisive. And Ferrari, unlike on other occasions, seems to have arrived with its work well done. If they can combine a perfect lap on Saturday with consistent pace on Sunday, a podium finish is not a dream. It's a real possibility. Ferrari's real leap forward at the start of this season is not only taking place on the asphalt, but also in the area where it has historically struggled to keep up with its rivals, technical development. Unlike previous years, in 2025 the Scuderia has not only brought improvements, but has done so with a clear strategic approach deeply tailored to each circuit. In the case of the Saudi Arabian GP, this translated into a very specific aerodynamic package, designed almost exclusively to squeeze every meter of the Jeddah track. The main change is the new rear wing, whose structure has been modified with a specific objective: to reduce aerodynamic drag on the straights without compromising downforce in high-speed corners. At first glance, the changes seem subtle, but in Formula One, every little detail counts. The new design features a shorter transition on the trailing edge, allowing the chord length of the wing's central element to be reduced. This translates into a tangible reduction in downforce and drag, crucial on a circuit where every kilometer per hour can make a difference on the timesheets. Leclerc was in charge of testing this version during FP1, while Hamilton used a more traditional configuration in FP2. The contrast between the two setups allowed the team to gather a wealth of data to decide which configuration to use in qualifying and the race. But the differences were not limited to just the wing. Ferrari also brought back some configurations that had already worked in 2024, including a version of the mid-load beam wing and a flat floor that was debuted in Bahrain, the effectiveness of which is starting to be felt more now that the team has been able to adjust the car's height thanks to the softer surface of the Saudi asphalt. Another key element of Ferrari's technical package this weekend concerns the car's operating window. According to internal data, the SF25 has managed to expand its performance zone by 30% thanks to the track characteristics and the adaptation of the aerodynamic components. This is significant. It means the drivers can push the car to the limit in a wider range of conditions without compromising balance or traction. It's a technical advance that marks a turning point compared to what was seen in 2024, when Ferrari struggled for consistency. All of this is accompanied by a clear intention on the part of the Ferrari technical team to better understand the interaction between the aerodynamic package and the tires. Wear in Jeddah is low, allowing for more aggressive strategies and longer use of soft compounds, an area where Ferrari has historically taken advantage. Pirelli's choice to bring the softest tires in the range directly benefits the SF25, which can now run closer to the ground, with more aerodynamic support and less risk of overheating. In short, Ferrari has not only arrived prepared, but has also brought a technical concept that finally seems to make sense. It's not about bringing in parts for the sake of it. It's about bringing solutions that fit within a coherent design philosophy and are designed to extract maximum performance in every circumstance. And in Jeddah, that effort is beginning to bear fruit. The balance after the first two practice sessions in Jeddah presents a clearer picture for Ferrari. And while there are elements that invite optimism, challenges also persist that could seriously affect its options for the weekend. Let's start with the positives first. The SF25's greatest strength in Saudi Arabia has undoubtedly been its adaptation to the circuit. Ferrari has managed to make its car operate within a much wider performance window, taking advantage not only of the low asphalt degradation but also of the ability to run closer to the ground without compromising aerodynamic balance. This is a key aspect because the underbody of the car, one of the most critical areas in this generation of cars, is finally performing as expected. It is no longer necessary to sacrifice ground clearance to preserve components. Now they can push harder without fear of losing stability or damaging the structure. Another strong point has been tire management. With the softer compounds Pirelli brought to Jeddah, Ferrari has managed to extend the runs without experiencing any pronounced drops in pace. This not only improves strategic options for the race but also boosts the driver's confidence. Leclerc, in particular, has been able to run consistently, maintaining competitive times even on used tires, something that wasn't always possible in previous seasons. Furthermore, the evolution of the aerodynamic package has been notable. The new rear wing, beam wing variants, and optimized floor pan are allowing the car to perform better both on straights and on technical sections. And while the gap to McLaren and Red Bull remains in terms of fastest lap times, the pace on long runs has closed the gap. If Ferrari qualifies well, it will be able to fight without having to rely on other people's mistakes. However, not everything has been ideal. One of the main issues remains qualifying. Jeddah is not a circuit where it's easy to come back from behind, and therein lies one of the team's biggest concerns. The SF25 has yet to prove it can consistently place both cars on the front two rows. In FP2, Leclerc was fourth, but Hamilton couldn't find the pace. And with Red Bull and McLaren at full speed, any small slip-up can leave you stuck in traffic, completely compromising Sunday's result. Lewis Hamilton's adaptation is another aspect that is still in progress. Although his experience and talent are beyond question, the British driver still doesn't feel fully integrated into the car. Differences in driving styles, understanding with his new engineers, and a lack of familiarity with the SF25's finer points are costing him tenths of a second, which, in such a tight field, can mean the difference between a podium finish and a position outside the top 6. Furthermore, the incident with Alex Albon at turn 18 could prove an unnecessary distraction just when he most needs to focus on his driving. And finally, the competitive context. McLaren led both practice sessions with authority. Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri were steady, error-free, and with a pace that so far seems a step ahead of the rest. Red Bull, although less dominant than at other circuits, still has Verstappen in the mix. The fight for the podium is going to be extremely close, and Ferrari has no room for error. Any mistake, no matter how small, is costly. Ferrari has taken steps in the right direction. It has improved its car, its pace, and its reliability. But it hasn't yet reached the point where it can clearly dominate. And in such a tight Formula One, being close isn't enough. The good thing is that the potential is there. The bad thing is that the margin for error remains very small. Friday in Jeddah left one clear conclusion. Ferrari is closer than ever to returning to the conversation among the favorites, but it still needs to confirm with facts what it has so far only shown as promise. The SF25 has demonstrated substantial technical advances, and this is already a step forward compared to previous seasons, where the team's words often failed to translate into on-track performance. The 2 practice sessions served more than just accumulating laps. They validated the work done in Maranello during the winter and the strategic decisions made at the start of the season. From the implementation of a more efficient floor to the modifications to the rear wing, every detail seems to be part of a more coherent vision. Ferrari isn't improvising. It's executing a plan. Charles Leclerc's role has been fundamental to this perception. His consistency, his clarity in his technical comments, and his ability to quickly adapt to changes have made the Monegasque driver the team's main competitive asset. Leclerc doesn't just want to win. He knows how to take the car to that point. His progress since Bahrain has been clear, and if he achieves a perfect lap in qualifying, he will be a top contender for the podium. On the other side of the garage, Lewis Hamilton continues his learning curve. But even with the difficulties inherent in his adaptation, the 7-time world champion has shown a meticulous and committed attitude. He doesn't look for immediate solutions but rather a deep understanding of the car. And that, in the long term, could be decisive for the development of the SF25. His experience will be key not only for immediate results, but also for the growth of the Ferrari project throughout the season. But the real test will come on Saturday. Qualifying in Jeddah doesn't just define the grid, it determines much of the race's fate. It's a circuit where overtaking is difficult, where mistakes are paid for with walls, and where starting in the right place can be the difference between fighting for the win or being stuck in the middle of the pack. If Ferrari wants to translate this technical progress into real points, it can't fail at that decisive moment. The fight for the podium will be determined by the details. McLaren starts as the favorite after dominating practice. Red Bull remains a constant threat with Verstappen, and behind them is a very competitive midfield that leaves no room for error. In this scenario, Ferrari can't afford to be simply competitive. It has to be perfect, because to win in today's Formula One, it's no longer enough to be close. You have to be at the front at the right time. The 2025 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix won't be just another race. It will be the first great indicator of Ferrari's true potential this season. If they manage to combine everything they've shown so far, speed, consistency, strategy, and focus, then yes, we could be at the beginning of a new era. One in which Ferrari doesn't just promise. One in which it's finally beginning to deliver.